this is part 5 of LINQ tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss the use of aggregate function. In part 4 of this video series, we discussed min, max, sum, count and average functions. All these functions belong to aggregate functions category. Within aggregate functions category, in addition to these functions, we also have another function with name aggregate function. In this video, we'll discuss the use of this aggregate function with examples. Consider this string array here which has got country names. Now we want to combine all these individual strings to form a single comma separated string. So let's see how to achieve this both without and with LINQ. Let's flip to Visual Studio. So here I have a new console application. Here is the countries string array that has got different country names. Now we want to combine all these individual country names into a single country string that is comma separated. So to store the result, let's create a variable of type string and let's initialize that to an empty string. And let's use a for each loop through each string that we got in countries array, and then concatenate each country to form a single comma separated string array. Right, now let's go ahead and print the result. So this result is of type string. So all the country names that we have within this countries array are now joined with a comma, into this single string, and then finally we are printing that result variable. So let's go ahead and run this, and look at this, we get a single string that's comma separated. But the problem here is that after the last country name we have comma, but if you look at the output that we don't want comma at the end of the last country name. So we need to remove that comma from there, and the best way to do that is by first getting the index position of that last comma and then removing it from the string. Okay, and to get the index position of the last comma, we can make use of last index of method. So to store the index, let's use a variable of type index. Let's call it last index, and then we're going to use the last index of method and then pass comma as the argument value. So this method is going to return the index position of the last comma within that string, and then we can use the remove function. So result dot remove, and this method expects the position from which we want to remove the characters from the string. So what is the start index from where we want to remove the characters that is present within this last index. So let's pass that, and then this remove method is going to return that substring as a string. So let's store that within the result variable, and then finally print the result. So now let's go ahead and run this one more time and see if we get the output that we expect. Look at that. Alright, now just to combine all these strings to form a single comma separated string, we have to write so much of code. Now let's see how to achieve the same thing using LINQ. So let's get rid of all this code. With LINQ, all we have to do is use the aggregate function on this countries array. So countries dot aggregate, and we need to specify our lambda expression. So I'm going to pass a comma b, a plus, to that concatenate comma, and then to that concatenate b. So what are these a and b? Now if I hover the mouse over, look at that, a's type is string, b's type is also string. So how is this aggregate function going to work? Now look at this aggregate function is being called on this countries array. So it's going to take India and US into A and B, and then it's going to combine them together with a comma to form a single string, right? So it's going to produce India comma US. That will be the result of the first execution of this method. So that result, that is India comma US, is then stored in this A, and then the third element from the sequence is retrieved into B, UK. So within A we now have India comma US, and B we have UK. So it's going to combine them together with a comma. So the resultant string will be India comma US comma UK. So that result is now taken into this variable A, and then the fourth element, which is Canada, is taken into B, and then again it performs this operation. So it's going to do this until it has reached the last element within the sequence. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see if we get the output we expect. Look at that, how simple it is with LINQ. Now let's look at another example. This time let's actually use an integer array. So here I have an integer array which has 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now what we want to do is we want to compute the running product of these numbers in this array. So we want to multiply 2 with 3, and then the result with 4, and then the result with 5. Okay, so we want to produce the product of all these numbers. Now if we are not using LINQ, then we may have to use a for each loop like this for each int I in numbers array. Result equals result into whatever value we have got within I, and then we will go ahead and print the result. Right, again, a lot of code just to compute the product of the numbers that we have within that array. So with LINQ we can use the aggregate function, so we can get rid of all this code and we can simply call aggregate function on the numbers array and then specify our lambda expression. So A comma B such that A times B. That's it. So let's go ahead and run this and see if we get the output. Look at that, 120. So now let's examine how this is going to work. It's going to work the same way. Take the first two elements from the sequence, perform the operation, take the result, store it in A, take the next element which is 4 into B, perform this operation. Do this until you have reached the last element in the sequence. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now if you look at this aggregate function, there is another overloaded version where we can specify a seed value. Okay, let's say for example, in addition to whatever numbers we have, we also want to take another constant value, maybe something like 10 or 15 or 20, whatever may be the number, and we want to multiply that with the first element, and then the rest of the multiplication should go as usual. If that is what your requirement, then you can use that seed parameter. So at the moment when we don't pass seed parameter, the product is 120. Okay, now let's pass 10 as the value for the seed parameter and then run this and see what output we get. Notice that we get 1200. So how is this going to work? Now it takes the seed parameter into this variable A and the first element from the sequence, which is 2 into B. So 10 into 2 is 20. So it's going to perform that operation, 10 into 2, 20. And that result is now stored in A. And then the next element in the sequence, which is 3, is taken into B. So 20 into 3, it's going to produce 60, store 60 in A, and then take the next element, which is 4 into B. 60 into 4, 240, and then it takes 5. 240 into 5, 1200. Alright, and these are the two examples that we just discussed now. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.